Many blessings, my beautiful star family. How are you all doing? My gosh, this cycle has been so intense. Wow, it's been like, for me at least, and for lots of people that I've spoken to, it's been like this huge purging. And wow, of like timelines and timelines of our ancestors and our beliefs and trauma and all connected to the South Node, which was obviously when the solar eclipse was 2 weeks ago. So that was back on the 14th of October. We had our solar eclipse. And since then, over those last 2 weeks, as this energy has been building towards this full moon lunar eclipse, which is coming up on Saturday night for us in the UK. So the full moon lunar eclipse will be on Saturday night, the 28th of October at 21:24 in the GMT time zone. So that's, yeah, Saturday night. And so this energy is incredibly strong, going to be around this full moon, I feel, that's building. And in a moment, I'll jump into the live sky for you all. There's quite a lot of aspects that I want to share about. But something that I've noticed from looking at the cycle ahead is that by the last quarter moon, which is on the 5th of November, Saturn retrograde would have ended. Venus would have moved into Virgo, and the sun would have moved into Libra. So there's quite a lot of shifts happening for us in the last week of the lunar cycle before our next new moon in Libra, which will be on the 13th of November. The true astronomical date for Samhain is the 7th of November. Tuesday, the 7th of November. That's a whole week after the 31st of October. Really passionate about this because you can work it out yourself, the exact midpoint between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, because those dates shift slightly every year because the Gregorian calendar is bonkers. We all know, right? It's a bit like, what? Man-made, right? So when I work out the exact astronomical date of Samhain, it gives me great power because I can align my rituals and my intention to the exact date. And when we're doing that, we are in our power. We are in true alignment with the sky and with the turnings of the wheel and everything. So, yeah, it's nice to do things on Halloween. I know it's become a big thing, but the true purpose of Samhain is actually the Druid New Year. So for us in the Northern Hemisphere, we are starting a new cycle because the cycle begins when the seeds are going down into the soil, because the life begins as soon as conception. Life begins once that sperm goes inside the womb and meets the egg, once the bulb goes down into the earth and is incubated for the winter. So the cycle begins right at the end of this solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, solar eclipse cycle. So this cycle has been incredibly powerful, right? So transformative, so purging. But my inspiration has been to really welcome the healing and the purging and the transformation, even though it can be incredibly uncomfortable and challenging, and find a way to soften into the intensity. And that is a huge part of the work I do with pregnant mamas to help open the gates to bring through new life. And this particular lunar eclipse that's happening on Saturday is at the gates of birth. And I'm going to show you now in the live sky so you can see exactly what I mean. So this is Stellarium Web. This is the true astronomy of the sky right now. So this is the sky right now as I'm recording this video. So last night, the moon crossed over Neptune, and I had some weird dreams. Don't know about you, because it was opposing Black Moon Lilith as well. So lots of fears coming up, lots of deception of my brain, and like, you know. So it was quite an unsettled night for a lot of us last night, I think. Moving forward, you can see that on the moon's journey to fullness, you're going to keep moving. So tomorrow, the 27th, the moon will be conjunct Chiron in the afternoon. And then on the 28th in the morning, let me just get Eris up. Okay, so let's just go back in time a minute just to see when the moon is really close in alignment with Eris. Okay, so here you go. I've been speaking a lot about Eris in my videos. So on the 28th, which is the day of the lunar eclipse, the early hours of the morning, the moon will cross over Eris. Then that night, that night at 21:24, the moon will be at its fullness and there'll be a lunar eclipse. So you can see where the moon is. So on its moon, the moon's journey to fullness over the next few days, it's going to be crossing over Chiron, so connected to our wounds and our deepest healing that's been happening throughout this cycle. Eris, goddess of chaos and discord, but also deep transformation and bringing awareness to really deep, unresolved parts of ourselves and shadows that we may have been denying. So when we look at the whole 2-week cycle that's taken us up until this point, you know, we started this cycle, you know, with a lot of awareness with Pluto, right? So Pluto just gone direct. He's in square to the nodes. Obviously, the eclipse is happening on the nodes of the moon. So Pluto's got a really big part of this. So we know this cycle is about transformation of our past to make space for the future. Like that is standard, right? We can see that. But you would have found, you know, around the time of the solar eclipse, there would have been things stirring in us, things illuminating in us, and things coming into our attention. And then on the journey of these 2 weeks coming up to the full moon lunar eclipse, the full moon is when we get to the full illumination of that expression of this cycle. So it's kind of like pushing all the lava up from inside a volcano, or all of the pus up from inside a spot. You know, it's like, that's why I think the full moon can be connected to release. You know, I know from working with pregnant people a lot that the full moon brings a lot of release because a lot of babies are born around the full moon or close to it. So, and you know, the turtles, they give birth on the full moon. They'll come up to the sand and they birth. So the full moon energy moves us, moves our emotions, moves our feelings, whether we like it or not. And there's kind of like, what I feel is that sometimes with the full moon, there has to be like a surrender to being moved. You know, we can have a lot of resistance to this, you know, because the sun in Virgo and the Pluto square the nodes, we could be having a lot of stuff coming up about control, you know, wanting to be on top of everything. And so the Virgo energy can be quite mental. You know, if we've got a lot of stuff coming up, we could have stuff coming up like, I need to take care of my health. I need to figure out what's going on. I need to go to a doctor. I need to just, you know, sort this out. Whereas the full moon is inviting us to actually not resolve our issues and our challenges in a logical way, but to jump into the depths of the ocean. And so looking at where the moon is happening, the moon is happening, where the full moon is happening, the lunar eclipse is happening, you can see, I've spoken about this before, that these two stars here, the star of Aries, the first star of Aries here, and the first star, or the head of Cetus, the whale, these two stars, to me, when I look at them, they look like a gate. And it actually kind of looks like a cervix in a way that it's kind of like a space. The space is opened from the void, from Pisces, the ocean, the waters, from Aureshka, this knot, this cord that connects spirit and matter. So this place here in the sky is where the heavens open. And our vagina is our gateway to the heavens. So those of us who have those, it's like this energy here where the moon is, it really is about birthing. And so much about giving birth to things is about death, is about endings, because we can't give birth to the new unless we let go of the old. And this is also the wisdom of Samhain. This is the wisdom of the ancestors, so, we see it all the time in the cycle of the year. I had a beautiful, beautiful meditation with one of my favorite trees here in Avalon a few days ago. And I was holding her and she was holding me. And she said, just let go. Look at the floor. Look at my leaves. Look how much I've let go of. It's okay. You can let go. It's okay. And then she said, look down on the ground. What do you see? And I found lots of seeds, lots of new life, lots of birth potential, and like I said, the life begins when the seed goes in, so this full moon feels like an opening. It feels like a grand collective purging. And I feel like the build up over the next few days until the lunar eclipse could feel quite intense, with Chiron and Ceres's influence. There could be a tendency to want to fall back into our south node because that's the comfortable place, right? It's like, but the thing that we know from, working with birth is that the more we're in our brain, the less we can open, the slower it will be. The transformation will be slower if we're in our left brain, if we're trying to work everything out in a logical way. So yes, Virgo energy has a place and is really sacred, but this full moon, I feel like it's like when the turtles come up out of the ocean to birth their eggs, it's like they know the energy is drawing them there. And it's a following of this drawing of this deep, deep instinctual knowing. And so Cetus the whale has a really huge part in this full moon as well, because obviously Cetus the whale is the deepest primordial mother energy. So we could find ourselves, during this full moon lunar eclipse, we could do like a meditation or really work with the whale energy and see ourselves like in the sea, like take ourselves in a meditation into the sea and see how it feels, because it can feel so scary. It's so dark. You don't know what's down there. But imagining that the mama whale comes to us. She's here. She's right here. She can feel us. She can feel everything. So when we meet with her, we could do a meditation to let her guide us down into the depths, because the chaos may feel so chaos up on the surface, right? When there's all the waves crashing and the wind. But the medicine of Cetus takes us deeper down to the belly of the ocean, the belly of the bottom of the sea, where we can find a place below the chaos. And this is the instinctual deep wisdom of the whale, that it knows that it can go down into the deep, and it has a gentle and powerful energy And the sound of the whale, the voice, the wailing, it connects everything. So if we think that we are made up of mostly water and the whole earth is covered in water, and when we die, our body ascends and we go into air and we become light water. So really is everything water. And when we are connecting to the whale energy, she's teaching us that her voice, her sound connects everything, that she sings the songs into creation with the DNA, with the chords. She has got the cord of creation right in her neck. Look at that, Aureshka, the cord, the knot that joins all things together. So she, the whale, is using her voice to call in creation. And this is where the creation song comes from. It's the primordial mother. It's the wisdom from deep, deep down. It's not up somewhere cosmic up there, it's down. And the further we can go down and in, the further we can go out. Something that I'm learning through my meditations. So Jupiter is going to be very close to this full moon as well, as you can see. So Jupiter has a really big, big part of this. And we'll look into the chart in a minute to see what aspects he's making. And the Aries energy feels like, so when we come from the waters of Pisces and the creatrix energy of Cetus the whale, we find our soul sound and we're born into the physical reality. We have to burst through the ring of fire. Those of you who've given birth to babies through your vagina will know there's a ring of fire moment where it feels like you are burning and it's so intense, and you have to break through that feeling and just the baby comes out. So the Aries energy, it feels like this ring of fire. And the solar eclipse was a ring of fire, okay? So this is where we started. So by the time of this full moon, we could be feeling like we're having to birth something and release something. And it could feel like huge energy coming through. And Jupiter expands things, right? It's this huge big planet and it's connected to our spirituality and knowledge and teaching and abundance. So when we're thinking of this kind of energy of expanding into this birthing, it feels like collectively we are purging, this great purging, to give birth to something, to make a huge collective shift. And it's happening. I can feel it in myself, and I know that there's so many of us that are going into the depths of this cycle, or have been for a while now, so call on the energy of Cetus, the whale, because, when we're with her, when we're with our ancestral, she's our true ancestor. Really? I think so, at least. And also the whale, the grandmother, is the leader of the pod. Without the grandmothers, they don't know how to navigate the ocean. They are lost without the elders. Samhain is also about the elders and the wisdom of the ones who have come before us, so it is really important, I feel, this cycle to honor our ancestors and honor our lineage and find, so I know that with our ancestry and our lineage and even our past lives, we can focus a lot on the trauma and all the shit and the bad stuff that happened and how we've been hurt or how we haven't been loved and all these things. And I feel like I had a beautiful conversation with a mama today in the pregnancy class where she talked about her ancestry and how in the war, they had to migrate from Italy to America or something. And we found wow, what are the gifts in that? Because there was so much fear, that she was feeling around safety and around security and home. But the gift is courage. The gift is liberation. The gift is freedom. So in these dark places where we are in pain and struggle and strife and fear, there has to be a gift, because there always is. Like I have the sun conjunct Jupiter in my chart, so I can be quite optimistic. So excuse me if that's not resonating with any of you, but I tend to be on the more optimistic side of things. That there can be a gift found. Like when we go down to the bottom of the ocean, when we're swimming with this great mama whale, we could find some treasure. You know, we see all the time, like in films, like the treasure at the bottom of the ocean, the lost world, the lost statues, the lost ships, the lost gold, the lost, you know, so there's something lost at the bottom of the ocean that we can probably find this cycle if we are willing to dive in and be moved. And that means surrender. So are we going to surrender? Our brain, our logic, our wanting to know and fix it and sort it and figure it all out. What if we don't? What if we trust? What if we swim with Cetus the whale and allow her to guide us home to our deepest ancestral knowing? That we are all connected, that all water is connected, that the oceans are what unite us, and that the whales are our leaders. They're our voice, they're our spirit guides, and they are here to teach us, to show us the way if we'd only listen, right? I've been playing whale music a lot as well, and really feeling that deep oceanic sound. It's so healing. You may find that if you're doing a meditation with Cetus the whale, and you want to take yourself into the ocean, just to put on some whale music. And that may also be very supportive this full moon. Wow, so much coming through, right? My ears are burning. It's like freaking hell. It's like such strong energy. Ooh, okay. Let's look at the chart. So I've done a little arrow to Neptune because I feel like that's an important one as well. So I spoke about the moon crossing over Neptune yesterday. And you can see, so Neptune is retrograde in Pisces. And at the moment, he is opposing Black Moon Lilith and Venus. So what does this bring? I feel like it brings us really deep fears around our values and our security and our love, all the things that we love and all of our creations and all of our family and children, like, because the Leo energy can be connected to children and creativity and light and play. So there could be, with Lilith here, it could be a lot of fears coming up around that, you know. And so Neptune opposing Lilith and Venus, it kind of brings up this energy of like we could be deceiving ourselves with this illusion of fear, that we're going to lose it all, that's going to be taken away, that it's going to be bad, that it's going to be whatever, you know, like, and we could get lost in that cycle. So how do we, if we're drowning, how do we find our way back? And so who do we turn to? I would say Jupiter. Jupiter is in trine to, sorry, Uranus is in trine. Let's go to Uranus. Uranus is in trine to Venus and Lilith and Pluto. Okay, so Uranus, who is in Aries, who's retrograde, also quite close to the full moon, in trine to Pluto, who is just moved forward, who's in Sagittarius, and Lilith and Venus in Leo. So this is a grand fire trine. So I just heard this song, burn it all away, burn it all away. If it doesn't serve you, then burn it all away. So what if we was to write our fears down on a piece of paper, write them all down, and have a sacred fire ceremony to use the energy of fire to transform things, to when we feel like we're getting lost in the drowning, but Neptune might be bringing us with our fears and our illusions and things, that we can find our way into transformation through the fire. And, you know, we may find like doing things like shaking, moving our physical body creates inner fire. So you go on a really vigorous walk, you know, you do some really strong breathing, some yoga, some dance, calling that Shakti fire to burn away and move it up, move it through, you know, and we'll probably feel like that is what regenerates us, you know. So how long are we going to allow ourselves to drown when there's an energy of transformation that is offered to us here that is going to help us? And Jupiter is also trining this Venus and Lilith energy as well. So expanding into that transformation, and we could feel like we're more drawn to spiritual practices and different ways that we can connect to this deepest part of ourselves. Meditation and dream journaling, and we may find that we're connected to something new in the spiritual realms that is going to liberate us and free us from what we've felt we've believed for so long. You know, Pluto in the last degree in Sagittarius, he wants us to know, what do we believe? What is my deepest truth? You know, so we are being asked, what do we believe? What is true to us? And when we know that, we're moving this energy. So we may find we're drawn to, spiritual practices, spiritual things. And that may look different for all of us, you know, how we connect to spirit. I mean, to me, how I connect best to the spirit is by going out and sitting with a tree. And I hold her in my arms and she holds me and I sing with her. And when I start singing with the tree, all of the birds start singing and I'm like, wow, did that just happen? It's like all of the birds who were sitting in the tree or nesting in this big tree just start singing with me. And then I feel connected to everything. And then I feel the tree's roots and how far they go down. And I say, wow, we are so vast. You know, so this is what I mean by connecting to the energy of Jupiter for our transformation. However we connect to this spiritual truth, it will liberate us and set us free from our fears and our delusions and our illusions. Ooh, let's just take a breath from that and have some water. I can feel like my face is on fire as well as I'm talking. Like, wow, this is quite the transmission. So I'm going to jump over to the last quarter moon in Cancer just before I go. So like I said, by the time we get to the last quarter moon, on the 5th of the 11th in the morning, 8:36, look at this. We're back in the ocean again. So we was with Cetus the whale and feeling that oceanic energy with the full moon. And we're still in the ocean by the time of the last quarter moon, but we're in Cancer now. So we're coming home. So I said just earlier that we could feel like connecting with Cetus the whale and this deep primordial knowing could bring us home. Ah, that feels nice, doesn't it? That feels really good. Like, okay, so the culmination of this cycle is coming and the sun has moved into Libra. It's joined with Mars, Ceres, and Mercury. And look, Saturn has just gone direct. So we're going to be feeling, oh yes, and Venus has moved it into Virgo. So we're going to be feeling all of this. It's quite a lot of shifts happening around this last quarter. And the last quarter is the wrapping up. It's the harvest. It's the processing and integration of the cycle. So we could be reflecting a lot at this time around what's come up over this cycle, what we're letting go of, what's moving on, and what the seeds could be that we are coming home to, these deep, deep, deep gifts that we maybe not have been sharing. So Saturn moving direct at the end of this cycle, it feels like we could feel more inspired about our future, about community, about our work. We may feel an energy of responsibility towards the community, towards what we're here to co-create. Saturn is now moving forward in Aquarius after his retrograde, after the eclipses. It's time to work. And you can't believe it because it's coming into the winter and we're like, no more work. But the work is being dreamed in. So during the winter is when we do the dreaming. So for those of us who are in the north, obviously, we're doing the dreaming over the next kind of 12 weeks until Imbolc, you know. So I feel by the time of the last quarter moon, Saturn moving direct, we may have some clarity around the work that we want to dream in for the next cycle. So that's amazing, isn't it? So that's something positive to finish this video on. So yeah, knowing that the full moon could be very intense and bring up a lot for us, but by the end of this cycle, there will be a lot of shifts and changes happening. So yeah, and then the new moon will be in Libra on the 13th, just after the true astrological Samhain. So yeah, so those of you who are in the southern hemisphere, you're on the opposite to us. You're in Beltane. But the thing about these energies is they complement each other. So Samhain takes us down into the womb, Beltane takes us out. So there is the energy of Samhain is kind of like death and birth. And then the energy of Beltane is the same. It's the death of the time in the womb and the birth of the new life, you know, and the coming into flower and connection and coming out into the light. The veils are also thin at Beltane. You know, we're connected to the fairy realms and all of the plant devas and things. So both of the energies of Samhain and Beltane are around endings and beginnings. So no matter where we are in the world, we'll be feeling that and feeling that shift inside of us. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm hoping that some of you have enjoyed that and it's been helpful. And yes, if you like it, please subscribe and share. It's such a gift to be here with you all. And yes, sending you full moon, lunar eclipse blessings. Lots of love.